Hi, I'm Futong Cheng of Cheng Design. On behalf of Concrete Network, welcome to House 6. So let's talk a little bit about the floors here. This is an 18-inch mat foundation. So this whole thing floats like a boat, you know, and this is earthquake country. And it's engineered so that this entire structure will behave as one unit. In that, we talked about, you know, that this floor was a challenge to pour because on that particular day it actually stormed. And but once we solved that, I came with all these brass strips. And the brass strips, the purpose of the brass strips was that you always have to put cut lines and control joints in concrete, to facilitate areas where the concrete can crack. And you want them to crack where you want them to crack, not where the concrete wants to crack. And when we do that, sometimes what I like to do is I actually put a decorative brass strip or copper strip right along that line. And what it does is actually it disguises the fact that that is where it's going to crack. And yet it provides an element, a design element, much like you would have in brass strips in terrazzo. There's a lot of, there's some interesting ways to approach this. Sometimes people want to drop the brass in the wet concrete. Just, you know, when it's got its first cure, you drop this brass rail in. And we attach little brass screws underneath, and then the concrete can grab those. Now, the problem with this is that you have to have strips that are fairly flat and straight, and once you lay them down in, that people can't tramp all over them, right? It's got to be set at a level where they don't start to drift down through the slab, and it can't be too hard where you can't push it down. So it's a delicate balance. It has to have some really good timing. You have to work with the crew really well to put these in at that moment. So what they would do is they would cut a control line with a joiner tool, and then allow the slab to cure off a little bit, and then just at the right moment you insert these and let them float right on the top. Then you push them down slightly and keep them flat. Now in this case here, where we had a storm and you had water and you had bleed water and all this stuff, and these things are moving around, it was really, really tough. And in some cases, we actually had places where the brass strips didn't grab anything because there was too much water there. And so we had to pull those out and just go ahead and flood that area with a mixture of sand and cement powder to suck up the water, and then come back later and cut these in. So some of these in this floor, this particular floor, are actually done afterward, and some were managed to be put in at the time of the pour. So there's many aspects of a floor, you know, especially a concrete floor, where we have opportunities to manipulate the look. And in addition to just grinding the floor, there's textures and there's inlays. Just like in countertops. And actually a lot of what you're seeing here in this house is informed by my experiences making and working on countertops, and taking those opportunities and applying them on a bigger scale, really. So in this house, for instance, not only did we inlay brass strips to work with the design of the grid so that you don't have that usual control joint for the cracking. We inlaid large fossils. One of my favorites is automatic valve body covers for transmissions, and also we put in a few key large precious items like the ammonite from Russia, which is very large, just as you walk in the entryway. And then this slab not only looks good, but it has a radiant floor system that's running through the whole house. So it gives it that warmth. I mean, without which, admittedly, the concrete would be very, very cold. So it's always recommended to use a hydronic system through a floor like this because it's not only efficient and it gives off this very, very comfortable radiant heat. In the summertime, of course, this house is incredibly cool. It's very well insulated and protective against the heat, but during the wintertime, you also want that radiant heat to, the concrete can radiate that heat back to you, and it's a very comfortable feel. From countertops to floors, fireplaces, walls, you can see that anything's possible with concrete. You can start small and dream big. I'm Futong Cheng of Cheng Design. Thank you so much for watching.